Welcome back to the Yibnei Beis HaMidrash for KLM, right before Leil Seder. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. What a beautiful melody. Who doesn't remember when they're a little kid singing this, or myself, a big kid, still singing it? It goes straight into our heart, and we know Dayenu by heart. But what if our heart knows Dayenu? Do you hear this? We know it by heart, we know the melody, but if our mind and heart fully engages, to tell you the truth, I cannot exaggerate what a difference it'll make. It'd be impossible. In fact, I would like to say that your Yetzer Hara will not want to hear this, okay? It's going to ruin it. Because see, the Yetzer Hara takes advantage of what we call easy mitzvahs. And Dayenu is right there in the Haggadah. It's a mitzvah, we'll discuss. And he takes advantage because he'll just get us lost in that sentimental, beautiful tune and not recognize the incredible opportunity. So tonight, we're going to reveal the depth of Dayenu, and like I said, I think that when your mind and heart fully engage Dayenu, you're not going to believe the impact. So let's get started. This is what we'll do. First, we're going to talk about what is the purpose of Dayenu, right? In the Leil Seder, in the Haggadah, what is the purpose of Dayenu? That's number one. After that, after all of this is the Kavanah of the Mitzvahs Foundation, KLM, we're going to reveal hidden mitzvahs. There are hidden mitzvahs in Dayenu, so that'll be part two. First we'll understand what is Dayenu for? Why did they put it there? Then we'll go to the mitzvahs in Dayenu, and as a special treat, I hope you'll feel it's a treat, I'm going to sing a song of Dayenu about Dayenu. That's what we're going to do right now. Okay, let's start with what's the purpose of Dayenu? Now here's the first question I want to say. Dayenu, it's a beautiful song. It gets across themes of Pesach. But you know there are other ones. How about Echad Miyodeya and Had Gadya. So what happens in the Seder and in the Haggadah? You go into the heart of the Haggadah. You start out with the four sons and Menachem, and you get into the deep Psukim, etc., etc., etc. At the very end, we have the Piyutim, the holy, beautiful Piyutim. So my question is, doesn't Dayenu belong at the end? Maybe that leads off, maybe it's before Haggadah, but why is Dayenu really in the middle of the Haggadah? We haven't even said Hallel yet, and you have Dayenu there. What's it doing there? That's the first thing we have to understand. And the truth of the matter is, it's a machlokes, there's two views, and each one can help us so much to appreciate Dayenu. Okay, so if you want to understand why something is placed in the location it is, again, we said it's in the middle, basically towards the end of the Haggadah, but the middle of the Seder, why not put it with the songs at the end? That's our question. So if it's here in the middle, what came right before it, okay? And what comes right after it? That'll help us. This is actually a way that we derive Torah insights. It's called Darshaning Smichut, right? It's done in the Chumash, etc. Here, the commentators say, Dayenu must be a follow-up of what just preceded, or it's a lead-up to what's to come. All right, let's first discuss what came right before Dayenu. So this is a part of the Haggadah that maybe some people struggle with and they go through on the quick side. Because what happens after we interpret the four verses that describe the Yetzias Mitzrayim, we get to the Eser Makot, right? The Eser Makot. So that's easy. Dam, Soradeh, and we're busy with the wine, dipping the wine next to the different Makos. What happens next? Well, there's these long paragraphs of Tanaim having debates about, well, was it 10 in Egypt and 40 and 10 at the sea, or was it 40 in Egypt and 10 and 250? There's this complicated discussion. How many Makos were there? right? And they bring verses, etc. Now, that section, at first glance, is a little hard to connect to, right? It's much easier to say the 10 Makos, you have some visualization there. What were they doing? Well, if you look carefully, these were the Tanaim that were staying up all night. We said Maisa B'Rebbe Eliezer in Bnei Brak, and it mentions the rabbis there. And they're the ones, what were they doing all night until Kriya Shema in the morning? So the commentators explain, this is what the Haggadah shows you. This is what they were doing. They saw that what Hashem does, there's much more depth and breadth to everything Hashem does. When we say there were 10 makos, right? There were 10 categories of makos. That is indeed true. However, if you look more deeply and you look more thoroughly, you can find that within those 10 were many more. So their picture, they had a picture of what Hashem did that was incredible. And I want to illustrate this. The difference between their Seder and if we just stay with 10 makos. Let me illustrate this for you. What were the rabbis doing all night? So let's compare it to this. Everyone remembers when they were a kid the dot-to-dot drawings. Let's say it's a 2-year-old. So his little dot-to-dot book would have this dot and this dot. Okay. And then this, and then he goes like that. That's one picture of a face. On the other hand, if it's an older kid, right, so then you might have this, 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 this. Okay, now you join this here, and you see there's more of a picture there. Now, I'm not exactly Van Gogh here, but you get the idea that the more dots, the more pixels, the more definition, the richer picture you have of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So if you just look at something in a general way, you have a general picture. You have a general intimacy with Hashem and His providence. But if you see more details, you see more of Hashem's providence. And that's what they were doing in Bnei Brak. And guess what? That's why that's why Dayenu follows. The author of the Gada says, we should learn from these great rabbis who spend all night coming up with more and more refined pictures and definition of what was taking place. And now we're going to thank Hashem. Let's draw out not just general things. He took us out of Egypt and we came to Israel. Let's bring out 15 different gifts and revelations of His providence. So that's what Elaine is doing. If we're going to depict the miracles in details, now let's thank Hashem in detail. So that's the first position, the first explanation of why Dayenu is where it is. It's following suit with the great rabbi's rich view of what took place in Egypt. Now let's consider the other way. And this will lead us to the hidden mitzvahs in a second. The other view says, why is Dayenu positioned where it is? What comes after Dayenu? Hallel. And as we've said many a shir at KLM, we use Rabbi Miller's beautiful understanding. Hallel is not merely praise. It comes from the word yalel, which means wild. It means deeply enthusiastic and wild praise. You're thrilled with it. So now, the richer details and the 15 gifts, when you go through them and celebrate, now you're going to praise Hashem with enthusiasm. So either way or both ways, we understand Dayenu is positioned to help us jump into a richer view of God and have much more enthusiastic praise than if we didn't appreciate Dayenu that way. Clearly we see that Dayenu it has to do with gratitude. That's clear. It's either appreciating the gratitude richly and setting us up to praise. This is why we'll see that Dayenu, in a certain sense, is the ikar, is part of the essence of the whole Haggadah. A famous question is asked, and that's this: how come, if you're going to fulfill the mitzvah Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim and tell your kids what happened, wouldn't you think the best location is Parshas Shmos, where it details the slavery, and then let's go to the next Parshas where it has the vivid details of the 10 Makos? Now, why is it that the Baal Haggadah did not use those verses? Instead, where do you go? Devarim. Parshas Kitavo. There's 4 verses that describe, in very brief, the Yitzias Mitzrayim there. Why there? So Rav Yitzchak Brodiansky explains, because what's the context there? Bikurim. What happens? A person is thrilled that they live in Eretz Yisrael and they have produce and fruits, and they go to the Beis HaMikdash with a basket of fruits, and then, what's the purpose? They want to say thank you to Hashem. Now, what are they required to do? To say, well, Shem, it was a bumper crop, and it's, even Shemitah. No, it would be Shemitah. Anyhow, what would you expect? They just thank Hashem for the fruits? No! They go back all the way to Arami Avad Avi, right? What Lavan tried to do, and they're supposed to recount the whole Yetzias Mitzrayim to appreciate where we started and where we got there. So that is, in the mitzvah gratitude you tell about Mitzrayim, that's us. You could look at Seder as bringing fruits to Hashem, to thank Him for our lives. And that's why we do it there. So Dayenu, which is, Hashem, if you only did this, Dayenu, that would be enough, etc. It's the essence, in a certain sense. Now I have a beautiful surprise for you. And now we're moving, we finished with the purpose of Dayenu in Leil Seder. Now let's go to what we always like to talk about, is discovering mitzvahs, discovering opportunities. And here's something that I think we really need to appreciate, and that's this. I don't know any job in the world and any employer that pays you for thinking, pays you to think. Now, I'm not talking about a think tank which has to produce research and results. We get paid for what we think. Now, I think that deserves a Dayenu. Now, what's the Dayenu structure, right? If you had only done this, I would still have to thank you profusely, Dayenu. And now you also did this, right? So now let's just think about getting paid for mitzvahs at all, getting a reward for mitzvahs. You could say that serving Hashem is to pay for room and board. Room and board in this universe. I mean, we get to live here and eat here and drink. It should be just, okay, for room and boards, you do mitzvahs. But no, that's not the case. Now I say it like this: if Hashem only paid us for mitzvahs with maisim dayenu. For example, you get a reward because you take money and you give it to a poor person, that we understand. But if what also does he do? We get paid for our speech, dayenu. In other words, when you encourage someone or you make a blessing, you're paid for your speech. Isn't that beautiful? But now think about this. This is what's so incredible. We are paid even for our thoughts. In other words, Hashem will reward us and bond us with Him through the kedusha of a mitzvah for our thinking. And in this case, Hashem says, when you remember things, when you're mindful of what I did for you, you get mitzvahs. I'm going to give you mitzvahs for thinking about what happened. Isn't that incredible? Now we're going to see there's actually 4 mitzvahs, 4 big mitzvahs, all of them Torah commandments in Dayenu. So now let's move to that. 4 big mitzvahs in Dayenu. So by the way, as always I say, you can shoot me an email. We'll send you this poster. We'll post this poster. this can really bring your Seder night to another level, and it'll be preserved for eternity. The first is, here, let's look at, in Dayenu, the 4 mitzvahs. Let's just first look at them. Zecher Yetzias Mitzrayim and Kriyas Yam Suf. Now, we know that twice a day we're obligated to remember leaving Egypt. We know there's a Leil Seder. But did you know it's called a mitzvah QMS, that every time you think about Mitzrayim, Hashem pays you for it. Hashem wants you to be thinking about Mitzrayim all the time. It's just not an obligation, it's a mitzvah when you do it. Okay? Next, and this Rabbeinu Yonah brings in Shari Tshuva and the Sefer Haredim, and this is not as well known. We have a mitzvah, Zecher Hazdei Hashem in the Midbar. And that's the basis for us to have gratitude, period. If we're supposed to remember the kindnesses he did for our Avos in the Midbar, all the more so for us. So here we go, Zecher Hazdei. Dayenu contains that, right? Third mitzvah, Zecher Ma'amad Har Sinai. It is so important to remember that the Torah comes from a Kadosh Baruch Hu and is divine. Guess what? There's a mitzvah d'oraisa to remember this. The Rambam says at least on a daily basis. And again, anytime you think about the giving of the Torah on Har Sinai, you have a mitzvah. Finally, the fourth one in Dayenu. This isn't a mitzvah remembering, it's a mitzvah of yearning for the Beis HaMikdash. Okay? Now, as we said before, Dayenu is about the details, a rich thing. So what do we have here is we can actually see that when I tell you, think about Mitzrayim, you may have a vague picture of leaving Egypt, right? But we want a rich one with lots of pixels and definition. So Hashem didn't just take us out of Egypt. He brought upon them Shvatim, 10 plagues, destroyed their false gods. He gave it. Look at this rich detail. You have so much to think about, and Dayenu is outlining it for you. So you can do Zecher, Yetzias Mitzrayim, and Kriyas Yam Suf. You know, you're supposed to even envision yourself as crossing the sea. It's all here alluded to in Dayenu. So you not only fulfill it, you fulfill it richly. The same thing with the Hazdei Hashem in the Midbar. He didn't just take care of us in the Midbar. He did it miraculously through Man. And guess where we got the mitzvah of Shabbos Kodesh? The Midbar. Look at these beautiful details to celebrate. And each thought is a mitzvah d'oraisa. Zecher Ma'amad Har Sinai. Again, there's 2 aspects to that. Of course, we got the Torah. But you know, there was never a unity greater, a Jewish unity, than when we camped out before Hashem at Har Sinai. There were amazing things. So again, we can do the mitzvah richly. Finally, right, we enter Israel, we get the Beis HaMikdash, and it's also a mitzvah. This is a mitzvah of Divrei Kabbalah, to yearn for the Beis HaMikdash. Look at all the opportunity in Dayenu. You have it in mind, and then use these rich details to really fulfill it. This can be a model for the year, and we're just going to close with a song of Dayenu about Dayenu. After that journey, here's a song of Dayenu about Dayenu. If Dayenu only had the mitzvah of remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim, revealing the central miracles for us to reflect upon Dayenu. And if Dayenu only had the mitzvah of remembering the miracle of Kriyas Yam Suf, which includes the obligation to see yourself as crossing Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. And if Dayenu only had the mitzvah of remembering the Gan Eden-like existence Hashem gave us in the Midbar, Dayenu. And if Dayenu only had the mitzvah of remembering Ma'amad Har Sinai, the divine event that no other nation has ever claimed, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. And if Dayenu only described our entry to the land of Eretz Yisrael, a land overflowing with mitzvah opportunities, Dayenu. And if Dayenu only mentioned the Beis HaMikdash, which enables us to fill the mitzvah of yearning for its rebuilding, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. So, before you recite this beautiful song, make sure to have in mind all of these mitzvahs, and you will have created for yourself an incredible Olam Haba through Dayenu, remembering Yetzias Mitzrayim, remembering Kriyas Yamsuf, remembering the kindnesses of the Midbar, remembering Mamad Har Sinai, and yearning for the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash, L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, Dayenu. Okay.
It's